right, so I'll tell you a little story about a girl. I'm sitting here with Gabe, and just see if you can draw some lessons from it. It's kind of an interesting story, I think. Anyway, I'll do start to finish on this one. So I was in the gym. This was the kind of gym that you can pay by the day. So it's the kind of gym where, the type of place you go makes a big difference. This type of place was the type of place where you weren't a member, so it wasn't the same people every day. It wasn't a gym rat gym. Although there were gym rats there. There were a few gym rats, but they were not really welcome. It was more like it was government funded in Tokyo, and it was basically for somebody who wants to get in shape and have fun kind of thing. So like a lot of girls would come for a few days. New Year's, it's like $350 a day. If you look online, it's called Tokyo Taikan. And it was a great gym in Sendagaya, right? And so it was one of my go-to gyms. I really liked it because I could walk to Harajuku, where all the girls were and my friends were. And it's a lot of fun. So, and it's $350 a day. Didn't have to make a membership. So it was great. So anyway, I went there one day and I was in the gym and I see this girl and she was just, I don't know if you guys know, but when you see a girl that's exactly your type, like she's so exactly your type that you can't even talk. And I mean that seriously. It doesn't matter who you are. I'm serious. It doesn't matter if you're fucking Brad Pitt, if you're the best pickup guy in the entire world, or if you've never talked to a girl in your life. It doesn't matter. Exact same thing. A man has a certain type that will take his breath away, and he will be a bumbling idiot. Unfortunately, the one he's going to be a bumbling idiot is the girl he likes the most. The one he's the most her type, right? And we're just talking about that feeling right now. We're not talking about marriage. We're not talking about fucking futures. Just doesn't matter what you fucking choose to do with your life. You are a victim of your own destiny. Of your biology. You're going to get hungry. You're going to get thirsty. There's going to be girls who are fucking your type. Exactly. And you can't ignore these things. So anyway, this is the type of girl she was. She was 19. She might have been 18. She was 19. She was definitely trying to get into college. So she had finished high school and she was trying to get into college. And I was pretty young. I was probably 27. So she was 19, I was 27. So 8 years, right? But to me, she looked great. She was exactly, everything about her was just, spot on for me. So my friend was at the gym with me and he said, I was looking at her and I'm like, oh man, I got to talk to that one. He's like, go get her number. So then, he wasn't the greatest pickup guy, but once in a while we would talk to girls together, And so he went and did his workout and I never talked to her. I just couldn't. I couldn't fucking sit there. And she's sitting on the fucking machine where, I don't know if you've seen these machines, they strap their legs in and they spread them open. It's like you're trying to use the muscles inside your legs, which doesn't mean she's a slut, because she wasn't a slut. I knew her. I know her very well now. But all she was doing was, she didn't know what to do. It was her first time in the gym. Like literally, she had never been in the gym. She thought it was really fun to try all the machines. She was using every weird machine. And there she was. And I'm looking at her and I just try to walk over to her and I'm just like, I can't. So I stop. So then I go to the locker room. My friend's there. My friend's like, did you get her number? And I'm like, I just couldn't talk to her. And he's like, you? And I'm like, yeah, I just couldn't fucking talk to her. He's like, come with me. He grabs me, goes right up to her. Because of course he's not trying to pick up on her. So he's not nervous. He goes, my friend likes you. He wants your number. Meet, and then he introduced me. And then he walked away. And then she had this like huge smile on her face. And she just sat there in the leg spreading machine. And I'm just talking to her. She's like super friendly. And then I said, can I get your number? So she gave me her number. And then we went on our first date. And I took her, I don't remember where we went somewhere. Yeah, I always went on cheap dates. It was always like a park or, walking around somewhere or, just checking out some new part of town that just been renovated or something that's kind of interesting, relatively. Or sometimes it was just simply as walking around Harajuku, which was always happening, right? So anyway, but I took her home that night and we had sex and it was extremely hot because I had this, I had some kind of a neon light or something where you turn off all the lights and there was this neon light. I got out of the garbage and it was like, it gave a nice glow to the room. And it was the first time I used it when she was there. And it was like this weird blue, wild look. And she just looked fucking insane, right? I mean, she looked better naked than she did with clothes on, right? I mean, this girl was a fucking work of art, right? And so, and here's the thing. She was in love with me from the first moment. Like, she was literally in love with me. And she was stumbling. You know when a girl's totally stumbling in love? She was like that. She would like run into walls, stumble around. You know what I mean? She was just like that way. And I couldn't believe my luck because here is this girl. And she had a lot of free time because she was trying to get into university. So she was like, you know, they have like these if you fail your tests in high school, you graduate, you have 1 year, you can try these exams, you can study, and you can get back in to a good school. So that's what she was doing. And so then that year she had nothing to do except study. So it was kind of perfect because I had a lot of free time. She had a lot of free time. And we met a lot. We had a lot of great times. And I'll just tell you about a couple things that I learned with her. One of them was I took her to Chiba for a weekend. And I had never gone to Chiba for a weekend yet. She was the first time. We went what's called the Flower Line. It's like a road, like a coast highway goes around Chiba. It's real pretty if you ever go to Japan. Like driving along the Flower Line on a nice day and stay in the little minchikus or ryokans along the way. Gold. Wonderful fucking trip. And you just kind of meander. It's like real slow. There's no traffic lights, no traffic. It's just beautiful the whole time. It's just really nice. You can just take your time, take a picnic, take some food. Don't expect to go to a restaurant. Just bring some food. And then you'll just have a great time. And the little minchikus are real cute and they're nice. It's like, I don't know, it's like kind of like you imagine like the English countryside or something like that. That's what it feels like, you know? And so anyway, so I took her down there and we were there was this little artificial island they had. So we walked the bridge over there and I hadn't fucked her yet because I had met her at the station. So I hadn't fucked her, which was very rare for me because I like to start the day off with sex. I really think that's key. When you're on a date with a girl, you want to start the day with sex. Don't end the day with sex. Very important. Start the day with sex. Have her come over to your house. You go to her house to pick her up. And then you guys get it going. And the reason why you do this is because it sets the tone. And you will notice, if you do this meticulously, that she will be much happier. Because you're in that kind of post-coital thing where you're kind of like very lovey-dovey. And you're kind of like, you know what I mean? She's like leaning on your shoulder. She like snuggles up against you when you're looking somewhere. There's a difference. There's a difference when you had sex that day and you didn't. That's why it's good to start in the morning. I used to always have sex at night, but the morning was definitely the best, definitely. Because it sets the tone. And if you look around, if you go to any date spot and look at the couples, you can kind of know right away who had sex in the morning. It's like pretty obvious. Whereas at night, you tend to go to sleep afterwards. So the memory's not really there, you know. Whereas in the morning, like this is what I learned with her, was it her? Anyway, I learned about this time, is that if let's say you have sex, like really good sex at night, there's nothing wrong with that. That's great. I mean, I'm not saying, you know what I mean? But just compare. If you can have really good sex in the morning, like nice, slow, sticky sex with the sun in your eyes and you and her kind of waking up together and melting together, and then it becomes hot, right? You start to smell in the room. You start to smell, you know, her smells, and the smells fill the room. And it's like the sun's coming in nice and warm. It can be very, very hot. And also, too, I think there's some kind of an openness you have in the morning. You know, like if you study in the morning, you remember things better. You know, and I think there's this kind of, I guess if you're comfortable with your body and she's comfortable with her body, mornings are really great. They're just so good because you're so relaxed. You're laying there, nothing covering you. You're totally comfortable with yourself. She's comfortable. And the morning's just fucking awesome. So anyway, we hadn't had sex yet. And I was like, oh shit, you know. And so then I took her, we walked over this little island, and there was this bathroom, which was it was like a reclaimed island. So it just had this steep like thing down to the water because there was no rocks or anything. It was like not natural. So anyway, around the backside of the bathroom, there was the bathroom wall right against the water, like 3 feet. So I took her there, and the sun was blazing. Now it's about 12 o'clock, 11 o'clock. The sun is like blinding against that wall. It was a white wall. So I put her against the wall, started making out with her, and she was totally into it. Because here we are in public, but no one can see us. Because if you walk around the island, you would never walk around the back side of the island because there's no room. It's just like a little strip. So we thought we were totally safe. So anyway, I thought. So I started like taking her clothes off, kissing her, and we're like, the sun was beating it down. Her eyes were closed. And I'm looking at her. She was so beautiful with her eyes closed, you know. I'm just like, and she's like being very natural. I can see her kind of starting to sweat, you know, like the beads on her face, you know. And it was just so hot. So we got into it, and we were like totally in the mode. You know, it was almost like we were in our own world, you know. I never imagined anybody could see us. But what happened was totally crazy. A cruise ship came behind us. Like a cruise ship. There was like a whole cruise ship, and everybody was watching us. But Japanese people were very quiet. They're very polite. So nobody made any noise. But there was this huge cruise ship right behind us. And they're just watching me and this girl just melt against this wall. Nobody did anything. And it was just, and I didn't realize until like too late. And then she opened her eyes, and then by then she was so into it that she like, you know, I'll tell you something about women. If and I know there's a lot of women listening now, when you're really turned on, you could get hit in the head with a crowbar and it doesn't matter. Like it's like you're past the point. When you're really turned on, I really think there is no shame, because it's almost like beauty at that point. That's what it is. It's like beauty. Like you're beyond the normal nervousness. You're beyond the normal worry. I'm not saying you're in another world, but that kind of nervousness and caring about what other people think disappears, and it turns into art. Swear to God, mark my words, this is God's honest truth. I'm trying to describe something very real. Anyway, she was in that mode. So it wasn't like it was dirty. It wasn't like that. It was just like we didn't care. And we were going to do it almost like a show, you know. And it went really well. So anyway, then we put our clothes on, and we walked back, and we walked over the island, and I went to this little stand to buy a drink, and there was this old lady there, and she looked at me, and she looked at the girl, and she said something very profound. She said, "You are a very lucky man," and I said, you know, kind of like, you know, you don't know if anybody's smart. Most people are not smart, or they're not intuitive, right? So when people say things, you don't know if it has any meaning or not. I mean, this girl's very pretty, you know, and we were having a great time. So, I mean, a lot of guys would just say, oh, you're very lucky, because she's a very beautiful young girl, right? But what she was, I believe that old woman knew more than that. She was looking at this girl because we had just had this amazing moment together. And she was just like, I could not see, because I was also part of the moment. So I was also in euphoria, you know what I mean? Like, but she was in love that a way that women are very rarely in love in this moment. And she said, and I said, oh yeah, thanks. She looked at me, she goes, I'm serious. She goes, remember this moment, because there's not many like this. I was like, fuck. That's heavy. Very fucking heavy. She could see it. And I was like, fuck. I do have to remember this moment, because it wasn't always like that with her, right? This was a period of time. Now, the period was pretty long, but people don't feel this way in their life more than a couple times, right? Maybe once, right? And especially somebody who's very attractive. You know what I mean? Like everything was working, right? And it was and I think about it, I don't even know all the girls I had after that. I don't know if I had another moment like that, really. I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so. That level was amazing. Just fucking like, boom. I think that there are things like in life that they're so pure, right? That's why people make art, is they're trying to describe shit that's very fucking real, but it's so rare that you don't see it, you don't feel it. I believe that's what art is about. It's something like that. Poetry, art, plays, musicals. They're trying to describe something that's very abnormal and very special, right? And I feel very lucky I was part of that. So anyway, that girl and we had a great trip. I remember we drove along. No, we hitchhiked. Oh, we went to this, I found this big flower garden where you kind of stand there and you buy flowers. What was it? I think you pay by the hour, like $1 or something. And then you buy flowers. And then, of course, you're just standing among these flowers that are as tall as her, right? And then you can like take pictures. And the sun was going down. It was beautiful. And it was really nice. I mean, I ended up going with other girls there, but that was nice. That was because we kind of discovered it. We were hitchhiking, right? But with this girl, you never had to worry about getting picked up because the first fucking farmer would always pick us up, right? And so anyway, then we found this minchiku. And I remember this minchiku was quite interesting too because, at the time I was only, say I was 27, might have been 26, 27. So I was new in Japan. And I could speak Japanese, but not as well as now. But I could speak Japanese pretty darn fluently already. And so this old guy, he had like a minchiku, which is like a Japanese, it's kind of like a bed and breakfast. Yeah, it's a bed and breakfast. And, but he also had a sushi shop, right? So we went to the sushi shop and we were eating there and I don't know what it was, but he started sharing his life. And it was very interesting, his life. His family owned that sushi shop during World War II. And he told me that at the time, during World War II, there was rationing, there was no food. So even though they're on the water, there's tons of fish, it was so dangerous that you couldn't fish because there were so many planes bombing and it was just so insane and also I think it was against the rules to eat your own fish. You had to like spread them out like communism or something. And so I said, well, what happened to the sushi shop? And he said, well, we served sushi rats. He said we had to catch rats and then we learned to make sushi out of rats. Now, it was interesting because at the time I thought it was kind of disgusting, but thinking back, we were on the ocean. It's absolutely beautiful. Like when you think of eating a rat in Bangkok, that's different than eating a wild rat, like a real wild rat. What's the difference between a wild rat and a fucking wild deer? It's the same thing. These are just eating bushes and, whatever the fuck rats eat, right? Little pieces of dead fish or whatever, it's normal stuff, right? So anyway, that happened. It was a very nice trip. And I went back to the flower line many times, but yeah, I had some good times, definitely, with the girl with the 181 IQ. Me and her had some very good times out there. And I had a very, very nice time with a Mongolian girl who sang to me on the beach. And that was really cool. Telling you right now, a girl that can sing love songs and likes to sing, that is the killer for me. That is the killer. That kills me. If the girl, she didn't even have to be pretty. If she sings pretty and sings songs, just her voice, me and her, silence, and singing a song to me just kills me. Which reminds me of something in Sweden. I'll say another time. Because it's just like actually too amazing to put in this one. This one's got enough. So then that girl, she was a good girl, and we had some very good times together. But eventually she went to she got into a good school. She went to Aoyama Daigaku, and she became like a designer for fashion, And then she kind of did her own thing. She was busy doing her thing. And we kind of drifted apart. And then like 10 years later, I ran into her, and just out of nowhere, I don't remember where it was. Somewhere I saw her, just somewhere. And I had a motorcycle then, and so I took her home, and we had sex. And it was so sad because she said, I used to be so in love with you. And she was like confessing, And as soon as she told me that, or she said, I was so in love with you. I mean, here we had sex. It was like, we had a good vibe. There was nothing wrong with the vibe. It was total. I mean, if the average guy had sex with this girl, they would have been very happy. I mean, she was beautiful. She was all smiles. The sex was fine. It was good. It wasn't like sometimes after a long time you meet somebody that's not good. The sex was totally fine. It was totally good. But when she said that, I knew what she meant. And it was over. The spell was broken. You know? I mean, I'm not saying she didn't want to. She was, I don't know what her real feelings were. She might have still been open enough to be with me and have children. You know what I mean? She wasn't like she didn't like me. But the spell was gone. And if you've ever had that kind of thing, you just, fuck. To me, this is like people say, like, why are you the way you are? Like, I lived in Bangkok. I'm probably the only guy who was never with prostitutes when I lived there. Because, like, I just can't imagine being with prostitutes. Like, to me, it's like when you've had real feelings and real experiences that are beautiful, I cannot imagine the degradation or the sadness of that kind of bullshit. You know, because you're taking something that by its very nature is quite special and you're really degrading it to the lowest level. And I'm not like a purist or anything. I'm not saying that. But really, still, it's still true though. It's disgusting. It's the lamest thing because you're selling, what you're doing is you're making a fake representation of something real at the lowest possible denominator. And then you're taking money for it. It's just like fucking, I just don't get it. I've talked about the dead eyes before, and that's the other reason. I don't like the dead eyes. And this is the thing, is there's so many people with dead eyes. They could even be zombies with dead eyes, and they're not married. I don't like that either. A lot of people have dead eyes. There's nothing going on in there. There's nothing, they don't have anything. They don't have any more hope. There's nothing else going in their life. This scares me the most. You know, it's just like, what the fuck? I can't deal with it. But I guess I just trying to think of lessons from that girl. And I think I kind of told you the lessons without telling them. I think you can pick them out from what I told you. There was a lot of lessons there, actually. A lot of lessons. And I will say one other thing. When she was in love, a lot of guys don't think girls have good sense of humor, but when a girl's in love, and I also would say that a girl in love is the only girl who can really orgasm too. Like really squirt and orgasm. Like really do it. Really get into it. Maybe they could, I don't know. I know there's girls listening. So maybe if you reach that peak at some point with one guy, you could learn to recreate it with other guys and still enjoy yourself. I don't know. But somehow to unlock a person, to unlock them, to open them up, to create something new, to reach into that kind of beauty or perfection, right, in life. You know, and I think the same moment can happen in sports too. I could talk about it some other time, but I once hit a softball so far that I wonder how far that thing was. I mean, I hit that thing. I cannot tell you how far it was. Like, because I didn't count. I didn't measure it. I fucking didn't measure it. But it was perfection. Every single little twitching muscle of my body went into that. Everything. Every fucking thing. And I just pulled that motherfucker. And that ball fucking flew. And it was amazing. Because a lot of people are stupid. They think that professional athletes do things the best. You will see moments of greatness. Very similar thing. We had a moment of greatness, of emotion. But there are moments of greatness from all kinds of people. And they are usually not from paid athletes. The true moments of greatness are usually from normal people. And I personally, I'm always awake to the fact that I might experience a moment of greatness from another person. Because most people, they don't notice this stuff because there was no marketing telling them that it's this way. Nobody told them that it's Mark McGuire who had this many hits and you're supposed to like him and he's the best guitarist because he, won all these things and his album sold so much and all this logic so that you can, as the average dickhead, believe that this person is good. I think this is the worst thing about modern society. For me, that's the worst thing. Because I see perfection and beauty in life. And I can see, I've known people. Part of the reason why I can tell you so many stories of my experience is because I noticed them. So it's like a bloodhound. I start to smell there's something there. Nothing's telling me there's something there, but I smell it. And I go, and then I follow it. And I'm like a little detective, right? Trying to figure it out. Is it there? Is it there? You know, whether it's, you know, the funniest guy I ever knew, you know, nobody else had noticed this guy, just for a lot of reasons, logical reasons why they didn't notice this guy was so funny. I thought this guy was so hilarious. And it wasn't just because it was my sense of humor. This guy was, I don't want to tell you why, but this guy was, oh my God. And I think that you need to, if you don't want to have a shit life, I mean this totally seriously, you have to realize that you need to see things without anybody telling you. You need to feel things and realize things. You can watch all the fucking MGTOW channels telling you how you're supposed to think. Everybody's supposed to do that. Everybody's supposed to, fuck all that. You, in the end, are a intelligent being going through this planet. You only have one chance. You can't miss anything because you're not going to get second chances. You know, I didn't get any second chances. This experience I had with the girl, but that was enough for me because now I fully experienced it and I can remember it. You know, it was part of me. It's part of my life, you know, and I think that that's the thing is you need to be alert in your life to this kind of thing, to real experiences. And this is the secret of life because you don't need a lot of these. You don't need to be constantly, you don't need video games on all the time because when you feel real things, there are not a lot of real things out there. So it's not like you need constantly because they're so real. They motivate you from the inside to be alive, right? Whether it's friendship, whatever the fuck it is, right? This to me is the secret to life. And it's not, you're not creating it. You're open to it. And you're looking for it. And you're allowing yourself to be pried open like a clam that doesn't want to get open because part of you is afraid of the rawness of this shit. It's very fucking raw. And I'm serious that nobody would have thought what that girl and I did was dirty. Nobody. Everybody that was there could feel it, right? Because you can sense it. It becomes real. And all the rules don't matter, right? The rules are for the fake stuff. Because they don't want people going around faking shit and doing shit like this in movie theaters. You know what I mean? But the real thing, if they could make another rule, they'd say, well, if it's the real fucking thing, whatever the fuck happens is fine. You know what I mean? Like whatever you end up doing is fine. This is partly why I like performance art. I really like performance art. Because performance art, not the kind of bullshit that Americans do, don't get me wrong, where they all get together and they pretend like they're normal people and they all sing happy birthday or some shit. I'm talking about this girl in Tokyo. Anybody who lived in Tokyo, you know I'm talking about. She was in Harajuku. I looked her name up. I actually found her name. She used to throw herself on the ground. She would rip her clothes. She was all covered in, scratches. She'd throw herself on the ground, this ballerina outfit, over and over on the little bridge right outside Harajuku Station going towards Meiji Jingo Shrine. She was there every Sunday for many, many years. And it turns out she was a famous performance artist, or she was a famous actress or something, an artist or something. She was something. Everybody thought she was crazy, People thought she was crazy. Like, everybody laughed or would make fun of her. I would sit there and watch her. I mean, this girl's rough. Like, you can see her on Facebook. I can see if I can find a video of her. I mean, you might not understand if you see the video because it's like really rough. Like, what the fuck is she doing, right? But I was very fascinated with her. I would have fucked this girl in a minute. I would have fucked this girl totally. Or I would have been there for the moment, whatever the fuck we ended up doing. I wasn't gonna push that kind of girl. I would just want to be into whatever was going on, basically. She would probably be leading the mood, I would guess. You know, if she became where she was following me, it probably would be less. I wouldn't be learning anything, and she wouldn't be sharing herself. I'd much rather have her doing something, and then I groove into it, and then she sees me as a guy who can see her, and amazed that I'm not laughing at her, I'm not making fun of her, right? You know, because there was something very, very real about the energy she was expressing. And I would just watch her for a long time. I used to do it all the time. Every Sunday, because every Sunday I used to go to Harajuku. Because I had a meeting there, so I'd go there every fucking Sunday. And I would always go to Harajuku Station, because I'd be coming from this one place, the JR line, right? So anyway, I hope this gave you kind of not only something to look for, but a better understanding of who I am. Because this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm trying to describe. This is what I'm looking for. You know, I'm not looking for steak dinners. I'm not looking for things that are made up. Somebody somewhere had a real steak dinner sometime in the past. And I'm sure it was amazing. You know, some cowboy had the first steak dinner. That fucking steak dinner was probably so incredible, right? Now you're just getting a facsimile of that, right? I think that's why I travel the world. That's why I take chances. That's why I take risks. That's why I do things, is to find these moments. That's why I traveled to like 50 countries before I was 25. I'm just looking, where the fuck can I find something that's real? There's got to be something fucking real in this world. Somewhere. Somebody who is not afraid of this shit, right? All right, that's all. Thanks.